Oh my, what a very special program that we have for you today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. This is our weekly show. My name is Scott, and with me is Trina Paulus, author of Hope for the Flowers. And there is an intersection of art and I don't know, philosophy and world politics and all sorts of things that we're going to be talking about, that you're going to be talking about today, Trina. So if you could give yourself even a little bit more of an introduction to give context to people who might not be as aware of the broad scope of your background and your interests, and then we'll just go from there.
Thank you, Scott. At 92, I think I probably ought to be harvesting this instead of being so curious and engaged. But that's my nature. And I want to tell you the story of yesterday because I was wondering if I should go because the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is so hot and horrendously awful that the whole world is dealing with this tragedy and seeing people killed every day and concerned about everybody. At least I am. I'm concerned about everybody. And I keep wondering if Hope for the Flowers has any role in it. And it looks like it might. And wouldn't it be something if these little stripe and yellow help break some of the boxes of thinking open so that there could be more peace? And I see this solution. If we can make a solution there, maybe we can make a solution with the powers of the world, because the world is breaking up into more pieces. The Ukraine war with NATO and Russia and the United States being behind it, thinking about another $60 billion. I can't even think about that. They could take care of all the homeless people in this country. And then the ramping up of things in Asia and the new effort to maybe have Asia join NATO. I mean, and then the BRICS nations coming forward. BRICS nations are India, China, Saudi Arabia, and many others who don't want the control just of the US dollar to control everything and are using their own currencies now. And that's another fact that's happening in the world right now. So we are surrounded with facts. We are surrounded with the United States full spectrum dominance, which I learned about more today. The plan to have full spectrum dominance of space. So this is the world in which you and I are living right now, and we have one life to live, and what can we do? So as I was thinking about this, and even the conflicts that apparently I missed being directly engaged with right here in my town of Montclair, between one of the synagogues and one of the Jewish movements that I actually belong to, Jewish Voice for Peace. I just wasn't involved in this dimension of it. And so I found out this past week that there'd been a lot of stuff going on in Montclair. So I meditated about whether I should go to this meeting at the synagogue at 4:30 that I thought it was, on the two-state solution. I wasn't sure that I should go and just stay neutral and work with Hope for the Flowers. But I decided to make a little pilgrimage there. It was walking distance for me. So I went and I brought something very exciting. And Scott will show it in better form. This is the Hebrew translation of hope, something I've been hoping to get to for a long time, and something we worked at about 15 years ago to hope to get out a Hebrew and an Arabic translation at the same time. Well, it didn't work then, but maybe it's time for it, because someone has just said they were going to donate the translation costs into Arabic, and then we have to figure out how we can afford and deal with the production of it in some way or another, and translating into digital form so it can be an ebook and printed form and anything else it needs. So I was able to print out 2 of our samplers of this, 9 pages, to show people what it's like, what it looks like. It looks pretty nice, even right like that, with the Hebrew at the bottom and the English at the top. And the 9 pages are like that. So we're going to be giving people who know how to read Hebrew better than most of my Jewish friends who maybe learned enough Hebrew to get through their bar mitzvah, but didn't go any further than that. So we need scholars, people into the Hebrew language to read it. And the person writing it is an Israeli, but she also has a house in Texas. She sent this from Israel. She's a mother who donated her time and doesn't need to be paid for it. She does it as we both are trying to do it, as an act of peace. So we need these acts of peace. And I just say something about my dream of once we do the Hebrew, that means that everything is moved from it's that and the Arabic, and also the Persian is in reverse order. Like this is the back, this is the front of the Persian version right here, which is from Iran. This book was sent to me as a gift from a young man being drafted into the Iranian army, and he told me that this was an underground bestseller in Iran. And of course, I can't do anything to make this a legitimate book in Iran. We can't deal with Iran right now, but I could reproduce it. The inside's already out because I've copied them, but this is the copyright page at what we consider the back of the book. So it's a very interesting new reality to have those three languages which go from our back to our front, and see that the world language goes in many directions, doesn't it? So that's one of my dreams, of getting the money and the talent to make that into digital forms, that we can actually do this job. And it would be wonderful to do it in this time, because one of the problems the people yesterday stood for a group I didn't know anything about. I walked up to the synagogue and I was a bit late because I thought it was at 4:30, but they were really just beginning their talks from a group called A Land for All. It's a variety with 7 Palestinians and 7 Israelis working together for what happens when we can stop this fighting right now. It looks to me that the Jewish Voice for Peace, and I'm trying to find out the relationship between these two groups. I haven't managed that yet. This was just last night that I met this other group. The Jewish Voice for Peace says we have to stop the fighting. We have to stop the killing. We just have to stop it all. Not that that solves everything. And this group says we have to, and they said we should have done it yesterday or today, and they give us till tomorrow to do it. So Scott, you did such a nice job with this. Just run it through. You'll see. We want to live together on the same land. Both these groups consider it their land. Key features: open borders, Palestinian refugees return to the homeland. Instead of settlements, Israeli residents of Palestine. That each group has borders, but and Jerusalem is an open city. Each group has borders, but you can be a resident, a legal resident, either place, if you accept the dominant. You can be a settler in the West Bank if you realize that West Bank is part of the Palestinian state. So this is a daring effort, and these people are working toward making it so. And I just have met them, so I haven't looked deeply into them, but this looks like pretty important stuff for us all to be considering. And it was a very moving thing by this Palestinian woman and this Israeli woman. It's interesting, the women are pretty important in these peace efforts in the world. So I'm grateful for that experience. And I had a chance then at the end to talk to the rabbi a bit. By the way, he opened the door. The synagogue, when I got there, they had started already, was totally locked. I couldn't get in any door, but the rabbi was there and opened the door, and he said, I said, I heard that there was going to be a discussion about the two-state solution. He says, oh, yes, you could go right in. I guess I don't look very formidable or dangerous, so I came in, and I didn't know a single person was there. Nobody from my peace action group, nobody from any of the groups that I'm with happened to that I could see was there. I sat in the back, and there were like 200 or 300 people there. So it wasn't like a little group. I don't know how many were Jews, how many were. One other synagogue was willing to put their name as a co-sponsor. The other synagogues say, we really do appreciate what you're doing, but we don't dare say we are. So, so this is where things are at with this effort toward peace, and that's people's positions on it seem so hardened, and little hope is there with just saying, get off your pillars, people. If you get to the top by climbing over others, you will be pushed off by the next group, and you're going to die without becoming yourself. So hope is asking also for a spiritual transformation of choosing to go into your cocoon and become your full selves, that you can then drink from every flower you meet, Palestinian or Israeli or Chinese or Russian or your next door neighbor or your children. See their beautiful nectar that they give you back as you love them, and carry the love from one flower to the other. That's the vision of hope for the flowers. This radical sharing, that's just such a beautiful one. And I wonder if I'll hear from them. I was able to give them each the 9 pages, the 2 women who were the speakers. I gave them each the 9 pages and a copy of the book. So they had that. What will come of this issue? I have no clue. I don't know. Maybe nothing. Well, who knows?
One of the things that we talked about before going on the air was how you've expressed yourself in so many ways, and you've shown us some today in terms of the book and the translations and whatnot. But you also have expressed yourself in terms of your sculptures, and they all kind of say the same thing, just in a different way. Could you share a couple more sculptures that you've done and the story behind them?
This is, well, they've seen. Oh, wow. We talk about the Abraham one, I think. Yeah, I think we should talk about that first. That fits this situation. This is Abraham and Isaac, the small version it's not small. It's the version that I made in 1962, 61, 62. And then in 66, I made this big one. It took a year of my life to make this one. And what's it about is the problem of the Abraham story. It's very much like Jesus and his father and the giving of a life and the mystery of Abraham. And I like to think of this Abraham as the last time anybody could think that we should kill their child because God wants us to. And we're still sending our children off to war. So we are sort of doing that still. So this is how big it is. It's bigger than life size. You can see when I stand next to it, my head doesn't come up to his head. And this is the arm around saying I love you, and the love of the Father and the Son. And I have another close up that I need to find to show. And then down here with the other arm, he holds a knife. And that's the way our Abrahamic religions, the Jewish, the Christian, and the Muslim, have been, unfortunately. We talk about love a lot. It's our mission. It's our heart of our religions, also around the world, the other religions too, in some way to love one another. And then we have our knives. This is the smaller one that you have here, right here on next to me right now, that I made. This is one of my New York period ones. I made this in a workshop where the wife of the NBC or the CBS, I forget which, was also there, and was they were so happy she came because that gave it a lot of pizzazz, this ceramic workshop. So that's that one. Now this one that Scott was happy to see. This is what I did in 1953, and she's called Sarah. And at that time, one white woman and 2 black women came from South Africa because my international movement was strong there. Scott, I don't know how well to make this.
You know, we can see it quite well. It's good lighting and whatnot.
Okay, well, that's good.
So
And
I wouldn't worry about that.
it's an original ceramic, and you see how you hollow out the bottom so that you can get it fired. And this was done, and that's the color of the clay that was used. And then this is cobalt. The black, darker part is cobalt, and a little engobe. Engobe means the colored clay. It's used for the eyes and the lips a little bit. So this is a sculptor, Sarah was her name. So that's a little bit of that. So we keep the art stuff going here for us as we move on. And one of the things that was said, and one of the things, by golly, it was Tucker Carlson who said this in his interview with Putin, which happened this past week, which was a wonderful interview, really, that I saw, the part of it that I saw. And Tucker was saying about how important beauty is and how important it is to live in beauty. And he meant the surrounding beautiful creation of God. And I thought, boy, that's an interesting thing to hear, just said like that in the middle of this interview of international importance. So there we are, Scott. Perhaps we've done enough for today. I don't know.
Well, let me close it off then by, first of all, thanking you for sharing your insights. They are always interesting and, just so valuable. And I know that you have fans and followers around the world who just are really interested in what you have to say. And then also to point out that you have a website, hopefortheflowers.com, and people can connect with you through the contact page and kind of go from there. So do you have any final words, Trina, before we sign off?
Well, I hope that each of us look for, in this complicated world, where we can put some effort and to look deeply, because I'm just looking into these groups right now, and I want to take what's good in each of these groups and participate. And I hope that we find a way toward working together. Maybe it's recognizing our differences, our beautiful differences, and yet the kind of unity we have as human beings on the same planet. And we don't get so angry with each other that we blow up our own nest, which is a pretty crazy thing to do. Oh, and Scott, I just heard that one of the problems that could lead to global cooling is the Gulf Stream, because the ice is melting and the Gulf Stream is changing its course, which is what warmed up Europe and parts of North America. And as we change the water flows and the temperatures of the water, we're changing the Gulf Stream. And we just don't know what we're doing as we play around with the weather, which we're also doing. So we humans seem to be trying to act like God, and that's a mistake. We don't know what we're doing, and we need to be humble before creation. I guess that's my final words today, Scott.
Okay. Thank you. So be sure to tune in again next week, please, everyone. And thank you for joining us.